Skill progression, the very core of the Skyrim leveling system. Unlike a majority of video games where doing a simple task like defeating a foe, doing side quests, etc. yields experience and you'll level up once you hit a certain threshold, The Elder Scrolls is a little different, as to level up you have to use the skills, and every skill has its own experience system. For example, the more you shoot arrows into the guard's knee, the more your archery levels. That could mean you could have 100 in every important skill for a warrior, while leaving your magic stats at their lowest possible level, especially illusion. Who even uses illusion in the first place? So that leads to today's video. Just how fast can you power level every skill in Skyrim to 100? There are many guides online on how to efficiently level up every skill, for example spamming the wait button after every spell cast, etc. But I am Orpheolus, and I don't believe in playing fair, so I will be using every exploit, glitch, and trick to get every skill up to 100. And to spice things up a little bit, all of this will be done in one single sitting, and also no console commands, or the run will be done in a minute. Also, a couple things to note. I originally had a timer running in the bottom right of the screen, but my OBS and LifeSplit absolutely hate each other, and OBS decided not to show the timer until I found out in the last 10 minutes of the run. As for the glitches, I am no Skyrim speedrun aficionado. I only know the more basic glitches, so I don't really know too much about horse tilting and all those fancy tricks without crashing the game, so you'll have to deal with me. And lastly, this will be done on the anniversary edition of Skyrim, which is a little bit of a gray zone as it is, but it does have a few glitches we will be using. The run starts out well enough, but in the second half it becomes quite a drag. Well, enough exposition, I guess it's time to get started on this pain train. So when starting the run, I'll be going as the High Elf this playthrough. The High Elf is the tallest race in Skyrim, and Bethesda has a thing where size correlates to movement speed and melee damage. The melee isn't what I care about, it is the movement speed that's going to be very important because, well, gotta go fast. Also, basic introductory stuff, so my splits wasn't wanting to start and me reloading LifeSplit must have caused OBS to freak out. Oh well, I'll put on the general timestamps at important milestones. Also, my LifeSplit doesn't have load remover anyway, so I'll be incorporating load times into my general final time. As for the prologue, it is more or less basic stuff, not doing any of the fancy multiverse load glitches. Anyways, I sat with Hadvar because his side is the quickest for the escape. During the escape process, I did pick up some lockpicks since they're going to be very important for the whole leveling. Also, during the escape, I took some time to level up my acrobatics. Wait, what do you mean there's no acrobatic skill in Skyrim? Jerks. At least the prologue only took 3 minutes, and I started timing when you gain control after getting beheaded. After the grand escape, the first order of business is getting into Whiterun, since we're going to be doing some setup for the most important part. I did make a pit stop at the Standing Stones and picking up the Thief Stone, since I'll be focusing on the thievery skills for much of the early part of the run. I entirely bypassed Riverwood, taking the side path up the mountain to Bleak Falls Barrow since we'll be there in a few hours. I was going to do my litter box dive for enchantments, but I forgot to pick up some gold, so I'm a little poor at the moment, so I go into Whiterun instead. The very first visit to the smith, and she has an alchemy gauntlet. This is going to be extremely important for the glitch that sets us up. For the run, we are going to need the alchemy enchantment. And trust me, I have had practice excursions where it took me a very long time to pick this enchantment up, so first try is big in my books. With some money in my purse, I begin to dive through the Khajiit's vendor chest. They do have a lot of gold, soul gems, which is pretty important, and some more enchantment stuff. The main enchantments I'm going to really want are the Health, Magicka, and Fortify smithing enchantments so I can slap them onto other gear. Again, important very soon. At Solitude, after picking up the chest, I entered the town for a skip travel location for later. Once I was happy with my pilfering, I returned to Whiterun and did more vendor glitches, since I want to have a fair amount of money to start up. To reset a vendor's inventory, quick save, punch the vendor, then reload that save, and their inventory will reset. Then you can do the vendor buyback glitch where you drag your inventory onto the merchants, selling, and you can sell the merchant's gear back to them, which is PC exclusive or at least requiring a mouse and keyboard. A very easy infinite money exploit, which is going to be very important and essential for the run. At the alchemist shop, I have some shopping to do. I'm going to want some Cyrodiilic Spadetail, Abyssinian Longfin, and Salt Pile for Fortify Restoration. Yeah, you can see where this is going. And we are going to want some Spriggan Staff for both Fortify Smithing and Enchanting respectively. I'm going to also require some Blisterwort and Hagraven Claws for the respective potions. I am also purchasing training in Alchemy here. I want to hit level 40 for the first 2 levels in Alchemist, 1 level in Physician, and 1 in Benefactor. These bonuses will let us get the positive feedback loop for the Restoration glitch. I then return to the vendors because I'm going to want some rings, necklaces, a helmet, and a gauntlet for Enchanting. I was sadly only able to find 1 ring and necklace, which is perfectly fine. This is where the next glitch comes to play. How are you going to get all the resources for the run? Well, I go to the Drunken Huntsman, purchase Vanessa's services, then drop every item I want to dupe into a corner, having Vanessa pick them up, exit and reload the map, and the items magically dupe themselves. Oh, I love spaghetti code. After a bunch of duping, I wanted to have 30 of the restoration related ingredients and 4 of the others. I also take the time to dupe the ring and necklaces. At the 37-minute mark, I have everything I need. So I punch a guard to take me to Dragon's Reach and do my usual introductions. Unenchanted my stuff so I can put on the Uber variants later, and then I enchanted some equipment. Then I store everything I don't need right this minute into a dresser. Firing Guard now has belongings, the poor sod. So for the Fortify restoration glitch to work, first enchant a headpiece, gauntlets, ring, and a necklace with a Fortify Alchemy, then create a Fortify restoration potion using the 2 fish in the salt pile. Close out of the menu, unequip the items, drink a Fortify potion, then requip the items. The percentage will have gone up a little bit, and then lather, rinse, and repeat. It won't go up very much at first, a percentage point or so, but every percentage will begin to compound. Eventually it will go to 20 and 30%, and after 30% is when the snowballing really begins, and before too long the restoration will be in the thousands. Winter potions are in about the thousands. Here you want to create a Fortify smithing for later, then continue the restoration loop until the percentages is, 100,000. Then create a few more potions. Then after this, go ahead and craft a Fortify smithing and enchanting potions. When crafting these very big boy potions, they'll shoot up to 100 alchemy. Alchemy experience is based on the value of the items we craft, so if the item is worth millions, that's an instant level 100, which is done in the Ebony Warrior speedrun. Also, we hit 100 alchemy at 48:44, and now we only have 1 skill at 100. Don't worry, things are really going to start flying from here on out. Next up, we are going to want to take out our items from Firing Guard's stash, making them have nothing once again. Then I drank a big enchanting potion, and then in the 30 seconds the effect is active, I enchant 2 rings with a Fortify health, a necklace with Fortify Magicka, a piece with a Fortify smithing if you want, and that'll be about it. I did enchant a helmet with Fortify Magicka, but it's not too important. We want to have 2 rings of Fortify health for much later on in the run. Equip your overpowered gear. Enchanting isn't tied to the value of the enchantment, but rather the quality of the soul gem used in this type of enchantment, so we can't use the restoration glitch to power level to 100, but there might be another way later. And lastly, for the preparation part, we are going to want something to get rid of the enemies. We can't die thanks to having a million health, so why not deal millions of damage instead? I initially messed up the setup. Really want to make a super powerful Fortify smithing potion first, or enchant whatever. My brain is thinking long term and isn't very bright as it is. I drank the super powerful smithing stuff, and then with 1 sharpening I can turn the basic iron sword into a weapon of mass destruction, and then with only 2 sharpenings I have level 100 smithing. Sure as hell beats crafting hundreds of jewelry. I also let my potions wear off and make a weapon that does a little bit of damage, but not too much. This will come into play much later on. And with that all done, and now we're into the playthrough, we can finally get started on the meat of the run. The next part of the run is going to revolve around probably the worst skill to grind, that being lockpicking. I did the math, and it would take about 4,000 to 5,000 lockpicks breaking to get from 15 to 100, or over 3 to 4 hours. Screw that. So we'll be taking the easy way out, and that will be with Vex. She is a master trainer who is able to get us to level 90, but we're going to need some setup first to get us to 90 comfortably. I then entered Riften, talked to the totally legit businessman. I mean, I run a similar gig on my day job after all, and then I do the basic tutorial mission of moving rings to the wrong person. I also keep my armor light for movement speed. Before the Ratways I get the Creation Club note, and more importantly an Iron Dagger. This little guy is going to be very important later. Anyways, with an extremely overpowered sword, I just split through the Ratways and headed into the Flagon. I then talk to Brynjolf and start the next part of the introduction. I then go around town and partake in the good old-fashioned serving of knuckle sandwiches with a side of fries. Too bad the prices doubled and the portion size shrunk in the last couple years. Back in the Flagon, I finished the introductions, and now I'm a member of the Thieves Guild. The most important thing is that I can now get training from Vex, and Tonelia is going to be my vendor I can use to generate quick gold. So I do want to get my gold back from Vex, and she won't accept pleas, so instead I got a power level pickpocketing. Thankfully the best way to level pickpocketing is actually here in Riften. I then tossed myself into jail and had a fun time trying to break out, but eventually I was able to break out of my cell, but I only had 1 lockpick, so I had to use my flames to kill a level 20 guard for his key. It was a bit dicey because my good loot was locked up tight, but once I have my OP gear, the guards were folded like wet tissue paper, and now for the task at hand. Sibby is a fun character. Because you're in jail, crimes don't get reported, so when I fail to pickpocket Sibby, he doesn't rat you out, and you can attempt as many times as you like. The easiest way to power level pickpocketing is with pure hard gold. Stick in a few septums and then take him out. You're going to want to start small, about a few hundred, and make sure you never go past the limit or gold will never come back, so be sure to save often. Just increase the amount incrementally until you have the perk that makes pickpocketing gold easier, and after about 7 minutes, 100 pickpocketing is achieved, so now I can start stripping everyone. Except I don't want to do that. I have an entire challenge run dedicated to the art of fishing. Afterwards I went outside of Freedom and bribed for it too. Now, after every level up, I'm going to want to talk to Vex and train and steal my gold back. At first it will be pretty easy, but eventually it will become impossible, so we'll wait until then. I returned to the standing stones and picked up the mage skill. Most of the magic classes are stupid easy to level up, at least in Anniversary. I returned to Whiterun and bought some spell tomes, mostly Soul Trap, Muffle that I forgot, and Mage Light. These are going to be very important for power leveling. I then traveled to Solitude and dual casted Mage Light towards the mountain just outside of town. For some reason it just power levels Alteration like crazy. Sure, telekinesis could be faster, but I want to control my leveling for lockpicking. It took quite a few trips, but my lockpicking was leveled up quite a ways. Between trips I did vendor glitch for more gold. It is going to be very important very soon. After about 20 minutes, most of that being in the flagon, Alteration was level 100. At this point, lockpicking is level 61, so not many levels to go. The next skill we will want to power level is Conjuration, and thankfully we can do that right here in the Ratways. Normally for Conjuration, you conjure something, let it go into a battle, and you'll get a little bit of experience. That sounds very tedious. So instead I find the first dead body I find, and cast Soul Trap on it. Sure, it is very immoral to Soul Trap a dead body, which is also on brand for me, but the game grants experience for Conjuration nevertheless, so I spam Soul Trap for a while. Eventually Vex becomes one with the crate, and more importantly, inflation finally catches up, so now each lesson costs over 3,000 to 4,000 gold, which I cannot pickpocket. So now money is going to be very tight, so I offer Tonelli a deal. So, how about purchasing a potion whose value is so much its existence is enough to descend the entire economic system of Tamrielic turmoil, crashing the value of the septum, and is worth more than what you and your entire bloodline, however, will ever make? All this was done so vendors have an extra 1,000 gold to their names, just so vendor glitching produces more gold per minute. I also began to farm gold for quite a while because every training session cost me 4,000 gold, so yeah, it adds up really quickly. At least the lockpicking grind is almost done, so I just took the time to continue tormenting Draft in the afterlife until I hit 100 in Conjuration, all without summoning any Dermora or bows. Afterwards, I'm back to breaking the economy more than the real world, and after a few more minutes, I'm finally at 90 blockpicking, meaning the last 10 levels will have to be done through traditional lockpicking. But at least we can pick up some skill books to skip 5 levels, so we only need to level up 5 times. The first idea that came across my small mind is repeatedly breaking locks in the Thieves Guild training room, but that was taking a while, so I did things the proper way and the experience gains were so much better. So I'm going to be picking locks for quite a while. I cleared out both the Thieves Guild and Dragon's Reach since both places have a lot of locks to pick. I also head into Dawnstar Barracks to pick a lock and get in a skill book down here. So now for lockpicking, it is on pause. Next up, I'm going to want to focus on some magical base skills, namely Restoration and Destruction. And I guess Illusion, but who the hell cares about that? And Hotsfall Cave is a great place to get both. Inside the iceberg, I make sure to kill all the necromancers and keep the bone boys alive. Once I'm in the bone zone, I line everyone up and spam lesser undead until I'm level 40 restoration. This is so I can purchase the repel undead skill later. Just gotta be careful. The game loves to crash with the repel spells. The other reason I came down here was for a chest of overpowered spells. The unbound spells are what I'm looking for. When you hold down the unbound spells, then fast travel, the game will treat like you are using the spell the entire way. So traveling to Bleak Falls Barrow, I went from 20 to 90 destruction. And I will return to leveling this up later. Just one more spell to work on for right now, and I guess that's Illusion. The skill tree nobody cares about. I forgot to buy Muffle in Whiterun, so I had to sit through court to buy it from Sybil. I had to spam Muffle through the streets until I hit level 40. I then traveled to Winterhold to get into the college, and all I have to do is flex my silver tongue. Here I bought Rally and Repel Undead. Both spells are thankfully upgrades for progressing the related magic skills, so now it is time to start leveling up the skills properly. The first skill I want to power level is Illusion, just so I won't forget about its existence again. And I headed inside Castle Dower in Solitude, most dense place with guards I know of. I punched someone outside, getting every guard in the area after me, and I punched him up in the basement, and then I started casting Rally on every guard, which down here there are a lot, and it shoots up my Illusion. Plus it levels up my armor skills, but I have another plan for that later on. Takes about 7 minutes with some distractions, and they let me go after all that. I'm kinda surprised. My next stop is going to be outside Morthal. Going to be going for the other Creation Club related glitch, and it requires 2 houses to do so. I set fire to the wizard house, and then go upstairs. Here there are some unenchanted staves here and some heartstones. These are going to be very important soonish. Also, related to this glitch, I do not under any circumstance want to visit Solstheim because it will break the glitch. Well, I skip travel way back to Bleak Falls Barrow, using Unbound to finish leveling up Destruction. So, we are how far into the run and now we're getting into Bleak Falls Barrow? This has to be a new record for me. Well, the main reason besides story I'm here is located halfway through the dungeon, so I blitz through all the unfortunate souls in my way. Even the frostbite spider can't handle me. Anyways, the reason I am here is because there is a massive source of Draugr here, so I lure everyone to me and lead all the Draugr through the dungeon, trying to make sure they don't get hit by any traps. Once everyone was grouped up, I started to spam Repel Undead on the group. It gives experience for every Draugr it hits, regardless of it resisted or not. So 8 Draugr means 8 times the experience, way faster than repeatedly damaging myself if anything can possibly hurt me at this point. So I just point and click and the level bar starts to fill up really quickly. You want to quick save pretty frequently during this process, because it is quite common for the game to crash here. During my routing I had about 3 to 4 crashes during this, and in this run I only had 1 crash, and that was when I was level 98. Thankfully it was a very short delay, and I could reload and finish the restoration section with a lot of scared and tortured Draugr who could not escape my terror. Took about 8 minutes to go from 40 to 100, crash included. The rest of Bleak Falls went by without a hitch, got a jump kill on a frost troll who happened to be viping here, and the poor Draugr Scourge at the end never even made it out of bed. The hangover was just way too strong. Back in Dragon's Reach, I do the relevant story bits, and the Draugr gives me a shield which will help me out quite a bit later on in the run, since I totally forget a route in getting a shield. Then I traveled to the Watchtower and began the first dragon fight. Oh, it was a massive fight, a brutal slog that reminds me of Dark Souls, and a very important thing dropped from Mjolnir is the dragon bones. They are going to be very important here in a little bit. Back at Dragon's Reach I talked to Balgriff and now I can go up to the Greybeards. Outside of Whiterun I totally legally obtained a horse and then traveled back to the Standing Stones. I never bothered stopping at Riverwood, which is the best place to climb to High Hrothgar, but oh well. This is me we're talking about after all. I climbed the mountainside with my all-terrain horse until I got near the Frost Troll. I got off my horse to run the rest of the way to my target. I'm sure it'll be fine. Anyways, the distraction I was after is a pilgrim here who happens to have an amulet of Talos, which will be instrumental for something coming up pretty soon. I got revenge for my totally my horse, and then entered High Hrothgar. Here I do the boring training, but at least a whirlwind sprint will help out with all the remaining travels in the overworld. If only we weren't this late in the run. The main reason for going up to this very out-of-the-way temple are the Greybeards themselves. For leveling up Sneak, backstrikes from a dagger is the most efficient way of leveling, and the Greybeards really don't care if you attack them unless they see you. And they really don't care if they do. So I get behind them and just start striking, over and over, and if they notice I stop, and they go back to doing what they usually do. With a low one-handed skill on legendary difficulty, will let me attack basically indefinitely, so it's a long series of these. After a very bloody 10 minutes, my snack is done, and now I am max snack. Back in Whiterun, I had to take care of the cultists and I was pulled away from my next stab. Jerks. Well, now I can get started on getting the remainder of my resources for the rest of the run. I grabbed a few ebony ingots, some leather strips, had to grab a woodcutter axe from another town to chop wood. My last character's kleptomania must have took over. I then grabbed Jeunesse again after ditching her for close to 4 hours at this point, and I duped some dragon bones and the Staff of Destruction, except the Staff of Destruction is a little buggy. I took the time to craft 2 dragon bone daggers, a dragon bone warhammer, a dragon bone bow, and some dragon bone arrows. During my attempts at trying to get the staff, a dragon came to town and killed Nazim. That's supposed to be my job. At least I got a dragon soul for my troubles. Anyways, the best way to get duping weapons to work is to drop a lot of ingredients along with the weapon you want to dupe all in the same menu, and be sure the weapon is dropped last. And you also want to make sure your companion does not have any weapons equipped. Eventually I got it to work and now I have 8 heartstones and 8 staves, which is all I need. With all the prep work done, now time to start cleaning up. Heading on to Bloodshield Manor, I put the Whirlwind Sprint to good use, covering distances really quickly without horse tilting everywhere. Beforehand, I totally remembered to put on the Mage Stone. I then killed the obvious vampire and his pets, and I'm given free reign to the palace. So thanks to Bethesda and Creation Club being made a spaghetti code, staves normally give a 20 times experience modifier, and it gets nerfed when going to Solstheim, but for whatever reason, if you never go to Solstheim and use the Bloodshield Staff Enchanter, you get insane amounts of experience. It takes about 8 to 9 staves to go up to level 100. Better than duping over 100 rings and soul gems. Now at this point we're going to be going all over Skyrim for a bunch of collecting, getting lockpicking up to 100, along with picking up some shouts that will help us out for our final battle. The second lockpicking skill book is located in a small ruin northwest of Morthal. The third skill book is in the Thieves Guild training hall with some flickering light bulbs. Seems Brandon forgot to pay the electric bill again. Also, the chests here don't offer experience if you pick them again, so there goes that plan. The fourth skill book is in the Mistvale Keep's Jarl's Chambers, and the last skill book is in Markarth, and the museum has a crapload of artifacts ripe for picking. Well, I made my grand entrance to town, and then picked the museum clean. Quite literally. Eventually I was level 99, so I went to sit in the mines, and in one of the side rooms was the final skill book, bumping me up to 100, though the UI gets a little wonky. All that remains now are the melee combat related skills, and for them I want to get the Elemental Fury to help out DPS. Thankfully the 3 shouts are in all easy to get locations without much dungeon diving required. The first one is near Karthwasten, just had to show the silly Forsworn what's up. I also nearly got the drop in on the dragon here, at least I got the funny kill animation for my efforts. The second one is outside Meridia's Shrine, never picked up the disco ball this run. Also along the way I killed some vigilants nearby thinking they were fake, or I'm just bloodthirsty, who knows. And then the third and final one is inside Shriekwind Bastion. Thankfully you can just skip to the end of the dungeon here. On the north end just climb the steps near the top, climb the mountainside, and on the western side of the peak is the exit. Just takes quite a bit of finagling to get up there, but eventually I can break in the back entrance of the dungeon and immediately grab my shout, so all that remains is getting some dragon snacks. Had to look around quite a bit. On my way to the dragon shrine nearby Aftan, I watched some giant self bandits take the first steps towards the final frontier. Too bad their frontier was final. I also had a book break reality. Anyways, I had a fight for my last soul, and that was because the referent dragon that would not for any reason want to land. Took quite a few attempts, but eventually it was in fly swatting range, and I could swat this flying gecko. I can now unlock all 3 shouts for Elemental Fury, and now begins the final part of the run. Yeah, the final section of the run, which might as well be half of it, outright sucks. I first went to Windhelm and picked up Stenvar. I need a companion, and Stenvar seems like a godlike fellow, so I gave him a sword that has 622 attack and a necklace with a few million health, so Stenvar is basically immortal and can solo the Ebony Warrior, or at least 100 of them without too much fuss, which is going to be very important. I then bought a house in Whiterun so I can get a well-rested bonus, return to the Standing Stones and pick up the Warrior Stone, which will be insurmountable for getting weapon experience. I then returned to Whiterun, took a nap, and began the final battle. So as I constantly bashed in Stenvar against the wall with my 2 Dragonbone daggers for hours on end, let's discuss weapon experience. A common misconception is that the damage done by the weapon determines how much experience you get. Well, it would be done by now as because of my uber weapons I would be at level 100 in my first wing. Experience is rather determined by the base damage of the weapons before smithing, so for one-handed the weapon with the highest base damage would be the Madness Mace for Creation Club or the Dragonbone Mace for DLCs. I never even knew that the Madness stuff did more damage than Dragonbone. But for having 2 daggers, the DPS is going to be very high, combo with Elemental Fury and the Dual Flurry perk, and you can attack so much faster, effectively granting a higher experience per second compared to just using maces. I never got Dual Flurry until about halfway through my grind. Also for grinding, fight Mercurio and Riften rather than any of the melee ones. You will thank me later. At one point I brought out the shield. As for leveling armor and block, the experience gain depends on how much damage you take. So while taking repeatedly swings with a weapon that has over 1,000 damage, maybe over 10,000, you will level up your defensive skills way faster than the giant method. I never bothered with the higher level damage sword. I got a long brawl ahead of me instead. During the inside battle, Lydia kept on getting in the way, so I had to take her out of the equation. It was totally exciting. But during the blockade training, I hit 100 in block, and not too long afterwards, I got my heavy armor also up to 100, so 2 for the price of 1. Well, at one point I got bored, so I took the brawl out to the streets, and I just started killing guards here only because it would be a change of pace. Literally the only reason. Not because I'm a bloodthirsty maniac. At one point I finally remembered about the dual flurry, so it was pretty funny becoming a spinning ball of death while using flurry, at least until I got blocked. At one point Caius would be interrupting our brawl, and Stenvar would stop being hostile, so that was something, and will be very important here pretty soon. Eventually, with half the city in the waterways, I finally hit light armor 100. A nice side hustle at least. But yeah, the blocking was extremely annoying, and I'm starting to really dread the two-handed grinding experience. Well, after over an hour of non-stop violence, one-handed was finally at 100, and then I brought out the big ol' mallet. My word, this is one giant slog. And now for an even bigger slog. Stenvar keeps on blocking, which makes one-handed annoying as hell, so when Caius makes us break it up, I took his weapon away and make him fight Fisticuff. Well, when he goes Fisticuff, he removes his plot armor, and I accidentally kill him. Well, it's just another body for my kill count anyways, so I had to come up with a different companion. Thankfully mages aren't full of blockheads, so I went to the Bee and Barb and picked up Mercurio. Second change in the plan is that I drank a Fortify Restoration and then put on the Amulet Talos. With combined, I am able to non-stop spam attacks at Elemental Fury speed. So the next 40 minutes looked a lot like this. I think the biggest psychopath in the room was the Argonian who just watched on, vibing along as I kept on using blunt force trauma on some mage. After about 40 minutes, I am done with two-handed, much faster than I was anticipating. After the run, I thought I could see how fast I could have leveled up one-handed if I did the Mercurio method first, and oh, this is way better. Sadly for this method I never got any armor experience, so I need to punch Stenvar a couple times, but at least it could have been way faster. Honestly surprised how much faster it went. Before I started leveling archery, I went outside and bopped a guard with Mercurio on my trail. Figure having him de-aggro will make things a little bit easier, and at least he shouldn't respawn like he did in practice. And he gives probably the most appropriate response.
Once more into danger.
Before leveling up the final skill, I did at least pick up the Thief Stone before resuming the batching of Mercurio, because you can't have Stealth Archer without the stealth part. Mercurio at least makes setting up easy for this. So, we only have 24 arrows, and we need to level up from 15 to 100. Thankfully, all we need are 2 arrows. So to power level archery, all you gotta do is draw an arrow, hit sheath, and immediately bash, and it'll do the full arrow damage, never uses an arrow, and counts for experience. The best way to describe the final grind is painful. Having to do a repeated pattern really made my hands hurt, but at least I'd rather take this over zombie hovering and Xenoblade Torna any day. Well, it was another hour or so of giving Mercurio the ultimate arrow in the knee treatment, all for the sake of experience, and near the end I went to check on my recording, and finally found out that OBS was being a butt the entire time. I went through all that trouble just for the timer not to show up. Jerk. Well, after 7.5 hours, I am finally done with this hell run, and successfully getting every skill to 100, when in reality, it would be closer to 7. Well, that was a fun run until spending 3 hours farming combat skills. I'm at least glad there is a destruction glitch I could use, or else there would be a lot of shock runes all over the place, and a lot more tries to my patience. Also, I one-shot the Ebony Warrior for no good reason. Overall, that could have been a lot faster. I played sloppily, and I should have gone for Mercurio first and foremost, but oh well. At least I had some fun until the final hour, and hopefully you all did too. I might revisit this run in the future. If anyone has any suggestions on how I could optimize this run, leave them down below. Well, back to the regularly scheduled challenge runs for me. If you liked the video, be sure to give a like, subscribe for more masochism, and any other ways to torture myself, leave them down below. This has been Orpheolus, and I'll see you all in the next one.